Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Make Money with Mace podcast. I'm your host, Mace, and as the first episode, I'd like to give a brief sort of intro of what I'll be doing here and what I'll be doing going forward. So, I love all sports, just about every sport. If it's an athletic event, I want to see it be played on my TV and watch it and learn all about it. And with that, it's been a pretty big boon to any sort of bets I make because I'm able to base them in some sort of rationale. I don't like, there are just great go with your gut picks, but I don't like just going with my gut unless there's something tangible that goes with it, right? That was my first pick that I ever shared with anybody on my website, and it was Brian Bayo against the Chicago Cubs. And the main reason why I suggested that bet, aside from me thinking Brian Bayo is, the future ace of the Boston Red Sox, is that he keeps the ball in the yard just about as well as anybody in all of baseball. 56% ground ball rate is very, very good. And he was facing a team that hits a ton of ground balls, with the Cubs hitting the fifth highest percentage of ground balls in all of baseball. Now, it didn't work out so well because Cody Bellinger's returned back to his 2019 form, where he was one of the most electric players in all of baseball. He hits 2 home runs off Bayo. But the good news is that Bayo only let up 3 all game, and the Red Sox were able to provide 8 runs, easily covering a 1.5 run line. So that bet went really well, mostly thanks to, again, Brian Bayo being a stud and Rafael Devers hitting 2 home runs and the rest of the offense following suit. Something I didn't mention that I didn't know how much of a factor would be is that Kyle Hendricks is a very soft throwing righty, and with him throwing so soft, I thought the Red Sox might do well because they don't do well with high velocity, but they tend to mash mid to low velocity pitchers. So with that being the case, I thought it ended up being a really good win for the Sox. Got a little hairy at the end with the bases loaded, but Jansen comes in to shut the door in the 9th for only 1 out, which is kind of insane in retrospect. But Sox get the win. More importantly, they get the cover, and I ended up 1-0 on the first bet, so happy for that. I move on to Saturday, 7:15, where the board didn't look super enticing, except for the fact that the Giants were getting even odds against the Pirates. The Pirates have been in a tailspin for the past month. They have not been doing well. Let me pull up their exact record. Just 1 second. But in the meantime, the Giants have been very good the last month. Yeah, so here it is. I think they were almost mirrors of each other. Yeah. The Pirates have been 9-21 over their past 30 games prior to that bet. The Giants 19-11. And it's just sort of like a trend pick team-wise, where I think that sort of winning and losing is contagious, and the Giants have been winning a lot. They're a winning organization. They have been for over a decade now. And the Pirates are a losing organization, unfortunately. Just haven't really been good since the early 2010s, where they had that old man pitching staff of Francisco Liriano, A.J. Burnett, and Andrew McCutchen was playing like an MVP. They're just in the middle of a rebuild and, fun start to the season, but the wheels fell off hard. And that led to the pick being, what it ended up being with Giants run line. Alex Cobb's really good. Yohan Oviedo is okay. He's got a couple really good pitches, but nothing too crazy. And that manifested with Mike Yastrzemski taking him deep on a curveball. And that ended up being sort of enough, where it was a 3-1 game, perfectly covers the run line at 1.5. And can't ask for much more than that. Just a nice, clean cover, nothing too crazy. And finally, the last pick I handed out ended up being my first loser. I suggested Philadelphia Phillies run line because of how much I like Zach Wheeler as a pitcher. 2021 Cy Young winner, his advanced numbers are outperforming his traditional numbers. He goes 6, only gives up 3. Phillies end up winning the game 7-6 in extras, but that doesn't do anything for us because we're looking for that 2-run cover. And what ended up happening was the bullpen gave it up. Gregory Soto comes in, walks the bases loaded. Fernando Tatis Jr. pinch hits, single, tie game. And like I said, goes into extras, where it's really hard to win in extras by more than one run for the home team. And I was hoping for a 2-run shot because of the Manfred man, but wasn't able to get it. So, is what it is on that front. And honestly, I'm okay with it. 2-1 over the weekend's really solid. Excuse me. Especially on run lines. So, going forward, I think I'm going to stick to run lines, occasional money line, and maybe throw in some overs and unders. And I want to get into that look ahead right now. And that will start with a team I really, really like conceptually, and it's the Miami Marlins. The Miami Marlins don't make any sense. I wrote about them for my first post, where they've got the negative run differential and they win games. It doesn't make any sense. And the reason why I think that they're going to be doing well as a money line pick this week is because they're facing the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, they just played the Cardinals 2 weeks ago, took 3 out of 4 from them, beat them very badly, 15-2 one game, and then had a 5-4 victory and a 10-9 victory that was a walk-off. And that's what they do. They win one-run games. And I don't see any reason for that not to continue, especially because Jesus Luzardo and Sandy Alcantara are going to be making starts for them this week. I don't see how they win at least 2 of those games based on those 2 guys taking the hill and just pitching well. Alcantara especially has been much better his past 4 starts in comparison to the rest of his season. So if he continues to play well, I don't see how they don't at least get 2 out of 3 that series. So I think that's a nice consistent money line bet, even at minus odds. Because again, you just want the value, you want the wins, you want to see the number go up, sort of thing. Plus signs are great until, you end up losing everything on a plus sign. In that series, I think, like I said, 7-17 through 7-19. Jesus Luzardo and Sandy Alcantara are bookending it. TBD on 7-18. Probably going to be an opener. Don't know what that's going to do, but hey, the Cardinals are really bad at fielding and pitching, so that leaves an opportunity for a team that finds ways to win like Miami does, a chance to win. Especially since they're going to need to bounce back after getting swept by the Orioles, who are cover machines. Take them against anybody to cover. It's absurd. Their record as a team is their record against the spread. Absurd team. Even against the Dodgers this week, I'm not too confident because the Dodgers just tend to always sort of win. And like I said, it's sort of tough, but Baltimore tends to cover more often than not. So I think that's a decent look ahead, but not my favorite sort of cover. My favorite cover by far and away is the Houston Astros traveling to Denver to face the Colorado Rockies. Houston's really good. They've been really good for about a decade now. The run line could be minus 2.5, and I still think I'd pick them just because the Rockies are so bad. They cannot pitch whatsoever. They field okay, and they cannot hit whatsoever against a team that's in the middle of a playoff race. It's another trend pick. Houston is fighting for their playoff lives. Colorado is in complete no man's land. It's a total trend pick. And I think that Houston will just continue to do what they do. They don't lose games very often. And when they win, they tend to win pretty big. Their pitching's awesome. The hitting has been timely. Not as timely as you'd like, but I think Kyle Tucker and a few other of those guys in the lineup are good enough to get the job done cover-wise against a really poor Rockies team. Quick 2-game set, so who knows what that will end up holding. It can get a little weird for a 2-game set, especially when in Denver, where a pitcher who's not been there before could end up getting rattled. But I don't think that's going to happen because, especially in Game 1, Hunter Brown is really good at denying extra base hits. He's a rookie, and normally that's sort of a weakness. And he's just been incredibly unlucky as a pitcher. And that unluckiness sort of factors into why I like him so much, because it's only going to get better. traditional counting stat wise. Like his ERA is going to get much better because his expected ERA is 3.78, which is lower than his ERA of 4.12. Then when you go to fielding independent pitching, which doesn't account for any balls that hit the dirt, it's, how many home runs are you allowing? How often are you giving up, walking home runs or silliness like that? It takes away the idea of the ball hitting the dirt and only takes into account strikeouts, flyouts, home runs, that sort of stuff. And his FIP is all the way down at 3.35, so he's outperforming his ERA by almost a full run. And then his expected FIP is 3.01. So the dude's advanced numbers are really, really good. And his BABIP, batting average on balls in play, he's allowed is 350. And that's just not sustainable luck. That luck is going to regress positively for him. And he'll probably end up with a more normal BABIP for the second half of the season. His ERA will drop below 4. And I really think that a pitcher like that, who again denies extra base hits very well and just has really electric stuff, will play at Coors and should be no issues. And the 7-19 game, it's a 2-game set. They're facing the worst starting pitcher in baseball in Austin Gomber. And if Kyle Tucker can't hit, a couple extra base hits off that, if Jeremy Pena can't do it, I don't know what Houston's expecting going forward. I know they've been missing Yordan Alvarez and Jose Altuve, but even still, they should be able to take care of business against a really poor Colorado Rockies team. And that's for run line. I will be placing those bets myself once they go live. And then for overs, this should be a fun series. Tampa Bay Rays at the Texas Rangers. These teams mash the baseball. They are so good. They are 1-2, 1-3, 2-3 in almost every single offensive category. And I think that's going to continue, and I think the over is going to be not as valued because of the pitching matchups. Cy Young candidates Shane McClanahan and Nathan Eovaldi are taking the mound on separate days, and I think that's going to drive the under bets a little bit. I think the under is going to be hit a little bit more, leaving the over a chance to be positive or just be a lower number. Because I think these teams are going to score. Tampa's bullpen's been its weakest aspect of its team, and Texas's bullpen is just bad outright. And especially 7-19, John Gray has been really not good over his past 4 or 5 starts or so. So a team like Tampa could jump all over him. And I really think those overs are going to hit for the Texas and Tampa games because that's what they do. They score runs. That's how they win. Tampa especially runs the bases exceptionally well, and they're really, really good against teams above 500. 32-22 is a great mark. It's a great forecast into how they'll play and how consistent they are. Texas is only 19-21 against teams over 500, and that leads me to believe they'll lose the game if you're trying to parlay an over with a run line. So if you're going to parlay the over with the run line, I would take Tampa and the over. However, strictly speaking, I would go straight overs for this set. There's 2 really good teams, sort of a toss-up. I'd take the over just to have fun with it. And for all of us dour individuals, the perfect under series is upon us. The Minnesota Twins are visiting the Seattle Mariners in T-Mobile Field, the most cavernous ballpark in all of baseball, the lowest park factor, the fewest runs in the league get scored here, the lowest on-base percentage, lowest batting average, lowest slugging, and these 2 teams can't hit. And even worse for any overbetters, they pitch so well. They are first and third on Fangraphs in total pitching WAR already this season. Minnesota by itself has racked up 13 wins just off their pitching, and then Seattle right behind them, 12.6 wins off their pitching alone. Team ERAs of 3.72 and 3.76 respectively, and team FIPS of 3.71 and 3.75 respectively. They pitch so goddamn well, and they're getting their best on these games. 7-17, Minnesota's trotting out Sonny Gray, Seattle Logan Gilbert. Forget about it, no one's scoring that game. 7-18, Bailey Ober against Brian Wu. Forget about it, nobody's scoring. 7:19, Kenta Maeda versus Luis Castillo. Nobody scoring. This is going to be a 3-2, 2-0, 1-0, 4-2 type of series. And even if the under's a minus sign, I would take it just to win, especially 7:17. Sonny Gray is so good. Logan Gilbert is so good. These guys are, Logan Gilbert less so. Sonny Gray having a bit of a renaissance in Minnesota. So, man, I really, really think that this under is going to hit. It's probably my most confident of these look-aheads. Aside from, I'd even say it's my most confident of these look-aheads. Even the Houston-Colorado one. Despite the quality and team, I think the run line could get to minus 2.5. But for the unders, man, these teams pitch so well and they hit so poorly. they are just not. It's not going to be exciting baseball. It's going to be late night baseball. So it might not be bet of the day type of stuff. And if it is not bet of the day type of stuff, we'll have a later. If it is bet of the day, it will be a later recap, later update for winner, whether or not it cash, probably first thing in the morning sort of deal. But in the meantime, man, I really think the under is going to hit in these Minnesota-Seattle games, probably all three of them. The one I'm least confident in is 7:19 Kenta Maeda versus Luis Castillo, only because Kenta Maeda is making his, I think it's only his second start of the season. So that could be a little rocky because it's not like Seattle can't score runs. They have guys who can really hit the ball. It's a matter of consistency, and that's why they're sort of stuck in this no man's land of 500 baseball. They are not pitching as well. They're pitching well every single game, but the offense is not lining up with them. And honestly, they might need a road trip to get that going to some small ballparks. So yeah, definitely take the unders in the Minnesota Twins, Seattle Mariners games. Take Houston in the run line situation, even if it is minus 2.5. It's a good team. It's a really good team against a really bad team. That sort of always plays. Take the over in the Tampa Bay Rays at Texas Rangers. Rangers also have really good positive park factor, which plays as well, more so than Tampa's park factor. So I think the over is definitely good and definitely going to be undervalued because of Shane McClanahan and Nathan Eovaldi taking the bump on separate games. Those guys are really, really good, but I don't trust their bullpens as much as I trust the bats on those lineups. And then take the Marlins. They figure out ways to win on the money line. 21-6. Now they lost today. 21-7 in one-run games on the season. That's really, really, really good. So take them against the Cardinals, who just find ways to lose. And yeah. And hopefully when I'm doing this on a Thursday, you'll hear some nice positivity in terms of how these bets went. And even if they don't, just know that they're rooted in some good logic that's trying to help you make some money. Mace, signing off.